Thanks for coming, first of all. My name is Aaron Capista, and this is RJ Sandegate. I opened this place about 6 years ago, as you can see. I give lessons, a lot of individual lessons, and I've always looked at myself as kind of a baseball resource for the community. I really enjoy working with volunteer coaches. I think that's what makes the youth sports world go round, are you guys that volunteer your time to coach Little League, and now club ball is real big. And I've always looked at it like, you know, this is something I've dedicated my life to. I do this every day. I train, I work with kids. I was a former player. I played at a high level. And then I would see coaches coming in and, you know, they don't necessarily do that for a living. You guys don't coach for a living, right? And you're not supposed to know everything there is or be on the cutting edge of training techniques and all this type of stuff. So, and I deal with a lot of the kids I work with. Their fathers are volunteer coaches and spend a lot of time with it. So I'd have a lot of back and forth dialogue with these guys through my lessons. And I would start to hear like, wow, people are doing that with their practices, and this is how this guy practices. And I said, well, there's got to be something I can do to kind of help, you know, with those questions that you might have as a volunteer coach. Sure, you can get a lot of stuff from the internet. What I've learned about stuff from the internet is you tend to see some things and hear some terms and some terminology and some phrases, and you might even see some video clips, but we know there's a big difference between how you might convey that to one of your kids as far as watching something on the internet. There's a big difference between actually facilitating that. That's what I'd like to think I've got pretty good over the years, is how to facilitate something, you know, baseball-wise to a coach or to a player. I wanted this to be very informal. For the most part, I want you guys to step up and ask questions. If I'm bombarded by questions the whole time, great. There is no one way how to coach baseball. You're dealing with a lot of different individuals. There's a lot of different ways to approach your practices. I'm aware that, you know, you guys are all coaching different age levels, you know, 8, 9s, 9s, 10s, 11s, 12s. It's all pretty much the same. The team that wins the World Series at the highest level of baseball is the team that catches the ball and throws the ball the best, right? It's not the team that has the coolest pickoff moves or runs the best first and third situations or does the rundowns the best. It's always the team that makes the least amount of mistakes. And that comes to catching the ball and throwing the ball and knowing where to go with it when the ball's hit to you. So, even though I feel like I know this game inside and out, I always strip it down to the basic, fundamental, the simplest form of the game. And that's throwing the ball, catching the ball, and hitting the ball. And my experience with youth baseball from the volunteer coach standpoint is that we're getting ahead of ourselves a lot of times. We want to go and pick out something cool to do at practice to impress the parents or impress the kids. And I think that's ridiculous. I don't think you should get too far ahead of yourself. It might be, if I had a group of 8-year-olds, it might be considered a waste of time if I lined them up and we played catch for 2 hours. There'd probably be some parents driving home going, this guy don't know what he's doing. Yet, for that group of 8-year-olds, that might be the best lesson they ever learned in the game of baseball. Until they can play catch from 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 feet away, without that ball sailing over the head, or without that kid able to actually play a game of catch, right? That's kind of a lost art form. People my age and older, we grew up playing catch all day. So instead, coaches tend to get out there and it's like, hey, we've got to break down into, you know, 8 stations and I get that stuff, and there's purpose for that stuff, and that stuff is good as well. But it's not good if none of the kids on your team can catch and throw. Now, the big dilemma nowadays is, I'm going to talk to you guys like you guys are all Little League volunteer coaches, and I know some of you coach club ball, and everybody's on a different level. I understand and appreciate that. But as far as the Little League, what's happening now, it's changed. It's different than ever. You've got 5 or 6 kids that play club ball 8, 9, 10, 11 months out of the year. They're training with people like me. They're getting really good, okay? And then you have 5 or 6 kids on your team that just dusted off their baseball bag, and it's that time of year, and you know, they are not prepared, and they don't know what they're walking into. And you're the people that have to guide and lead that ship. And so what the heck do you do? You know, I always thought it's a pretty good approach for that level to tackle your practices and your training, coach to the worst kid on the team. You know, you're gonna have kids that are superstar hotshots and their parents think they're the greatest things ever. Send them to me. Or send them to RJ, and we'll knock them down a few levels and teach them and coach them up 2-3 years in advance and teach them some of the stuff they need to learn to really progress on an individual basis. Or send them somewhere else. Find somebody that's a former professional that's dedicated their life to training and teaching and getting that individual attention that's going to hone in on their skills and make this kid the next whatever. But that's not your job. Your job is to manage these group of kids. You know, half of them don't know what they're doing, the other half are pretty good. And the league stuck me with this team, right? So what I'm trying to say is, don't feel bad. Don't try to accommodate your superstars. They're playing Little League. Why does the best club ball kids in town play Little League anyways? Let's cut the crap so they can play All-Stars. That's it. They're not enjoying their time with the volunteer dad, you know, cutting into his work schedule to go out there and coach that kid, right? And their parents probably don't care either, okay? So it is what it is. Now, those 5 or 6 kids that wore jeans to try out and don't have baseball equipment and are on your team, they're going to get something out of this, you know? So we got to find a way to somehow mesh those two, and obviously you're trying to keep everybody happy. But it is what it is. It's easy if it was club ball, because those kids might not make the team, and you don't have to deal with that type of player. But they signed up. It's what Little League says. And we've got to put out a good product, and you're trying to do your best. And I think the best advice is coach that team like you're coaching the worst kid on that team. And if some hotshot doesn't want to play catch for 10 more minutes, or do some basic routine type of stuff, well, trust me, that kid in 3 hours has club ball practice. And they're going on to a whole different thing. It's his decision and his parents' decision if they want to put their best front forward and go into Little League and get something out of it. You know, so it's almost the system right now that kind of sucks. And I think it'll work its way out. I think Little League's on its way to doing some really good stuff. And I think, if I had to guess, in 5 or 10 years, club ball will run through Little League, and they'll manage something else for these kids that we deem kind of more recreational players as opposed to serious baseball players. You know, a place like this, I've always thought, well, this is for a serious baseball player. His parents are going to drive down and pay me to teach them. I'm going to work with them. You know, I'm providing a professional service. And then there's recreational players as well, which Little League has a lot of recreational players. I think another thing is be upfront, be forward with these people. You are doing everybody a favor on that team, okay? So act like it, you know, have that little chip on your shoulder. You don't have to put up with a lot of this crap. You know, you have to remind people that, hey, I'm doing everybody a favor by doing this, right? Have a team meeting, you know? Make it clear that at 5 p.m. on Wednesday, I'm going to have a team meeting, and I'm going to have 2 team meetings because I want to make sure mom and dad both show up. So I'll have 2 team meetings in that first couple of weeks before we play our first game. And I'm going to clear the air, you know? And I think the best thing you can do is be upfront, be honest with them. You know, if you don't want people calling you at 9:30 at night, tell them, don't call me at my house. If you want to be open and you feel like you know and can give back and you care at a higher level, call me anytime, any place. This is different. I'm like that. Call me whenever. Text me whenever. But this is all I do with my life, is teach and train baseball. So I can open myself up like that. So that's up to you guys. But if you don't want to receive a phone call at home, tell them, don't call me. You know, find me in the parking lot after the game or whatever. But you have to open yourself up to some sort of communication. And going back to those team meetings, what's important is you can nip all that in the bud right now. If you're going to rotate kids and they're going to play different positions and that's your philosophy, great. Tell them right then that your hotshot, club ball shortstop, batting third his whole life, might play left field, and he might hit ninth. Don't call me. So they're either going to maybe want to leave your team or they're going to accept what you just told them. But they're likely not going to call you in a week and go, why is my kid not playing short and batting third? So if you can nip that stuff up early on, they know what they're dealing with, you know? And you don't have to be a jerk about it, and I don't mean to sound condescending or arrogant or whatever, but I've been in situations like that, you know? When a parent comes and signs up with me, and I train them once a week, twice a week, I spend the first 20 minutes talking them out of it. How you know this is going to be expensive and time-consuming, and you're committing to something. You sure you want to do it? That you don't get better in a half hour, an hour, or in 1 year, or in 2. You sure you want to do it? It's a developmental process. Are you sure you want to do it? Some people say no, some people say yeah. And I tend to work with those kids a lot over the course of the year. So, coming up with a style, a coaching style, or the in-game stuff we'll talk about in a minute or whatever. But however you choose to handle it based on your personality, your flexibility, however you choose to do that, just convey that to the parents. But make sure you're clear about how you're going to handle the season. Some of you might be sitting there like, I have no idea what I'm going to do. And I'll try to help you out there in the next hour or so. I'll try to help you out, give you some ideas. I'm always open for communication in the coming months. If I can come out and help you with one of your practices or something, if RJ and I can arrange something like that, we like to do that because it brings recognition to us in what we do, and I think that's important. So going back to that first meeting, you've kind of laid your ground rules and what you will and won't tolerate and accept, and that's your right to do that because, like I said, everybody owes you a thank you already when they walk in that room. One of the first things I would say as a volunteer coach in your guys' situation is, if you expect me to get your kid to be some outstanding hitter, all right, you're mistaken, okay? I can give you the name of RJ Sandegate or Aaron Capista or Bill Madlock or Chris Bryant's dad. There's guys that give hitting lessons for a living. Some are good, some aren't. Seek those people, all right? So, address that. There's going to be some mom or some dad or some of you in the past might have thought that your Little League coach is going to get your kid better at baseball. Not really. It's not going to happen. It won't happen. Now, what are some of the things you can do? You can remain upbeat, positive, teach the kids some lessons about just life. Don't be late, the simple, basic stuff. Hustle, the importance of effort. I've never been a big yeller or screamer, but if I see a kid that's just terrible effort, waste of everybody's time, I don't have to scream to tell him, pack your bag and go sit and wait for your parents to show up. Message received, And you guys shouldn't be yelling and screaming and your heart's racing and this and that, because some kid that does not matter to you or your family is driving you nuts, right? You can address that in the meeting. That you will tell the kid to sit down and wait for his parents to show up. That he's not what you want on the field. That's your time. When you're running the practice, it's your time. So, I'm not here, meaning you guys, kind of put myself in your shoes when you guys have these meetings. If you think I'm going to get your kid better at pitching, you're probably mistaken. I know a little bit about pitching. I'm going to share with that kid what I know. It's probably something I grabbed from YouTube or heard or saw on TV, and I'm just regurgitating it. It is what it is, but I'm not a professional pitching instructor. So if you'd like to get your kid better, go get them a pitching lesson, please. Give that pitching instructor my email, and we will communicate throughout the year. That's what I do with coaches, football coaches, Little League coaches. Communication solves almost all the problems in all of this stuff, okay? So I've got some coach, I deal with it every day, 10, 12 kids come in here, my coach told me to do this, okay? What's your coach do for a living? Not one of them ever was a professional baseball player and dedicated their whole life to coaching skills in baseball and get paid for it, make a living doing it. So, yeah, I have a bit of an issue with that. Why couldn't that guy just say, hey man, let me email this guy that you go to hitting lessons with, and if I have a big problem with it, I'm not going to tear your swing apart and tell you to do all this nonsense. I'm just going to email him, and then I can get all the feedback. I've always offered that up. I'll spend an hour on the phone with somebody that's volunteering coaching a team that I give their kid lessons, you know, rather than you tearing up everything that I've worked with the kid. So literally leave it up to, you know, the professionals. And that's not a slap, because whatever you guys do for a living, I probably come and use your services for when I need those type of professional services. It's hard for you guys to go in there and have that meeting because you want to come off like you know what you're doing. And I don't blame you. But if you come off like, hey, if you want batting lessons, go see this guy. If you want pitching lessons, go see this guy. I'm here to give your kids a good experience, teach them some right and wrong. They will learn lessons, okay, on the field, and I'll put my own little twist on it too, personally, you know, with other stuff. Hard work pays off, discipline, be on time, have a good attitude. Those are all stuff that's, it's well within your control. I always tell the kids, control what you can control. Meaning he can't control that he's batting eighth in that lineup, but he can control that he swung at that pitch in the dirt. Okay? So control what you can control, and that's what you know, what you bring to the table. All of you have something to give to your team and the kids and the parents. To be honest, most of the parents probably won't care, but you're affecting those kids greatly. So kind of clear in the air about how you're going to run the team, discipline, order. Clear in the air that your existence is not to build these kids' skill level so they make high school and get a college scholarship and play professionally. Your existence, you know, your existence is what we talked about, right? Good lessons, being upbeat, attitudes, everything. My experience tells me that these kids, when they're 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, in my case, 18, 19, 20, truly never understood how difficult this game is. It is terrible, okay? Yet, you know, I could go to any 8-year-old Little League game in town and watch a kid strike out, and everybody goes, ooh, ah. And then people, what are you swinging at, right? So that's the reality. I'm not going to change that. You guys won't change that. That's happened forever in baseball. But that's what the kid goes home with. And that's what you guys as coaches have to deal with. You think he wants to come up for his next at-bat after he just got run out of the field by maybe a coach, but certainly an unruly parent in the stands? So there's where it lies in your hands. You know, you have a direct effect on what you can go over and say to that kid, right? To change their whole perspective and scope on the game. And we'll get into some more baseball technique. I don't want to make this all about what I call approach. For example, I'll have a hitting lesson with somebody that's got a good foundation I've worked with before, and we'll go a half hour, an hour, and not talk once about technical things or mechanics. We'll talk about what I call approach. And the approach is everything from preparation to the mental aspect of the game, what's going through your head, how you handle different situations, where are you looking, pitch recognition, pitch selection, seeing the ball, timing, all this stuff. None of it has to do with, hey, I saw this on YouTube where everybody's telling the kid to get his hands back and his back elbow up, right? Something like that, just so you know. Wherever your hitter's back elbow is, does not matter in their stance. So, we'll touch on some basic fundamental hitting stuff, you know. In my experience with volunteer coaches is, although they're trying very hard, that they overcoach everything. So what tends to happen is they hold on to these things that they hear and then they just pound it, right? Get your hands back, get your back elbow up, get your weight back. And then they come to me one day and they look like this. And then I have to erase everything because their coaches throughout the years have told them stuff like that. And for lack of other stuff to say, which I can help you with, they kind of repeat those things that are detrimental to a kid's individual development. And again, just my thought is to separate yourself from how you're going to get their kid better at hitting and pitching. Okay? I think throwing is something, and I'm going to jump into it in a minute here. Throwing is something that you can help with. Fielding is something based on how you run your practices is something you can really help with. I would like to, I think we all know that using your time the best way. If you're going to decide to have 90-minute practices, an hour and a half, 2 hours, probably standard. I've never really understood a 3 or 4 hour practice for an amateur baseball player. I would try to condense it and keep it short. One thing that's always overlooked is warm up and stretch, like a warm up and stretch. Playing catch. I see a lot of times just balls are rolled out the field and everybody go to their position or we're going to break down into stations, which is good if you have enough coaches, enough eyeballs to keep an eye on everything. But, for the next 5 minutes or so, I'm going to talk about the importance of throwing properly. Every kid wants a pitching lesson, and they need a throwing lesson. Pitching's the art of getting hitters out. I'm not in the business of giving pitching lessons. I work with kids on throwing, but you guys can help these kids with their throwing mechanics because it's fairly simple. And just jumping into it a little bit is, I would break down my kids after a light warm up or whatever, and they partner up and they play catch down the left or right field line. And in a perfect world, these kids are hitting their targets and they're not coming up short, left, right, or too high. They're able, it is so valuable, guys. I could bring you in the 2 best 12-year-olds in town and have them stand 60 feet away, and they'll screw it up. But they're 12, right? So what are 8, 9, 10-year-olds? I know how ugly it looks. Remember, guys, before you want to break down and do these fancy on-the-field drills, which are cool, and some of them are really good, remember that your kids can't catch and throw properly. And I'm talking some of the best 8, 9, 10, 11-year-olds in town. Why do I want to get ahead of myself? Okay, let's fast forward to when the club ball parent calls you and says, what are you doing with your practices? Why do you spend 40 minutes on throwing? Why do you spend the other 40 minutes on knowing where to go when the ball's hit to you? Situational stuff, we'll talk about that. And again, so you might get that because we're working on the basic fundamentals and there's kids on this team that don't know how to catch and throw. It's not your responsibility to manage that club ball kid who might be ahead of everybody else. You're better suited coaching to the worst kid on the team. It'll suit you best. If they don't like it, next year they can maybe relieve you of the stress of having to coach a team. And if you think you're better than that or want to move faster than that, you should seek coaching a club baseball team and get those kids involved that are good, that you can take it up a notch. So Again, assuming we're all talking about Little League right now. Partner up, throw. So when I start with throwing, it's two things mainly. The first thing, I talk about grip. I don't want to bore you guys, but you can bore your kids because they'll need to know this. How to grip a baseball, right? So everybody, break down a bunch of 8, 9, 10-year-olds, they grab a ball, they start playing catch. 1 out of 10 of them is holding the ball the right way, okay? Which is a 4-seam grip. A 4-seam grip across the seams. For the little guys, right, they got to bring their third finger up. That's cool, right? But as soon as you can split, 4-seam grip. Something I always didn't know, but the reason they call it 4-seam is because when it leaves your fingers, 4 seams break the air, the wind, keeping it a tighter spin, and traditionally a more straight ball. And you can create more rotation, so you create more velocity. So as a position player, we won't talk pitching. As a position player, I'm trying to always hold it in a 4-seam grip, right? So if you're not familiar with that, that'd be something I'd want to preach. 4-seam grip across the big seams, as opposed to a 2-seam grip would be with the small seams. Only 2 seams are cutting the wind. So for pitchers, it creates a little more movement, a little wobble to the ball. But always 4-seam grip. So I'll tell kids all the time, hey, go to the 4-seam grip, right? What's wrong? No one takes a baseball to school anymore? 4-seam grip. Bounce the ball off the ground, 4-seam grip. Watch TV, 4-seam grip. It's why you might see, in slow motion when they show a major leaguer coming in, field the ground ball, transferring it. They're always to that 4-seam grip. Even when they're picking the ball off the ground, 4-seam grip. So grip is everything, basic playing catch. Every kid lined up playing catch, every throw needs to be in a 4-seam grip, okay? So grip is super important. And the next most important thing is our footwork, okay? So bunch of 8, 9, 10, 11-year-olds, everybody grabs a bucket, half of them are still jacking around, and then when they get throwing, they're just lazy with their footwork. Rarely, and if you do, it's like awesome, but I want the kid that's here. I'm 10 feet away, just loose, good. Practice good habits every time you throw a ball. What I'm doing, I call it shuffle push. So if you're writing notes or something, I would write shuffle push. And what that means is shuffle with your feet, ankle, push off with your back foot. Shuffle push. Okay? Here. Towards your target. Shuffle push. Okay? And what you might see a lot is a lazier version, which is the crossing of the feet. Okay? So, can you do it? These kids aren't in the major leagues. To me, it's a lazy form, and I've been in situations where I've crossed up my spikes with my shoelaces and fallen on my face. As a professional, that's kind of embarrassing. So, these are good habits. Here, shuffle, push, 4-seam grip, okay? So, that was just a couple minutes of instruction. But if I've got 12 kids out there with 4-seam grips, shuffling and pushing towards their target, 80% of my problems are over, right? And the next would just be arm angle, right? We all know what sidearm is. Throwing across your body, these are big no-nos, right? Don't throw across your body. Kids want to know why they miss. They're literally pulling the ball. So don't throw across your body. So if you're taking notes, write this down. Throw it down through your body. So down through your body, which means my body's right here. I'm going to throw through it. This would be throwing across it, right? So common problem is release point. At the end of the day, we want to get to, well, why is Johnny can't hit his target? So a lot of it is grip. 4-seam, a lot of it is footwork, shuffle, push towards target. And then the next step will be the release point, okay? So the opposite of throwing across your body would be releasing too soon or pushing the baseball. So it's almost like a shot put, and then the ball's going to sail out. So we always say in here, like there's an answer to everything, right? It's about how someone perceives it and then executes it. But it's easy for me and him now, we're retired, so we got all the answers, right? But it is, it's hard to execute. But we want to convey those answers to you. So you want to know if someone's pushing the ball, they're releasing it too soon. So get out in front of it and throw it down through your body. Okay? Clearly if someone's becoming short, could be an indicator of lack of arm strength, or that they're holding on to the ball too soon and they're literally spiking. And if they're high energy and airmail, they're releasing too soon. So there is that release point out front. So just in a few minutes, we talked about the importance of a proper game of catch. The kids have to be able to do this. Make them prove it to you. So all of a sudden, 20 minutes in, everybody's moaning and complaining. They want to do something that's considered fun. And you can always point to, well, these, 4, 5, 6, 7 kids, you guys still can't get it right. So we're going to work on this till we perfect it. Okay? And that's an easy excuse for you guys. Guys, I know it's fun to take ground balls and throw to bases and stuff and hit, but you guys can't catch and throw the ball properly. And I want to make sure you can. So you can always throw it back in their face. And I always tell kids if they want me to shut up, do it right. And I hold by that, because when you hit line drives every time, I ain't got much to say. So they can also shut you up by doing it right. And that's best case scenario, right? You force them into a situation through discipline, scheduling your practice where, hey, the first 20 to 30 minutes, we're playing catch. And I would advise starting out, say, obviously different ages, start out at 30 feet, and every 4 or 5 minutes go back 10 feet. And here's something I'll address that you guys have heard. You guys have heard what long toss is, the term long toss. In my opinion, stretching it out, develop some arm strength. I agree. Long toss for me is one hop to their partner, and that's as far as you want to go. Don't be the ones out there with kids just air launch, because now what we've done, we've compromised all their mechanics and their throwing, and they think they're just throwing, stuff up in the air. So by that one hop to them, we've gone far enough. And obviously, don't partner the best kid up with the worst kid on the team, right? So partner them up accordingly and stretch them out every 4 or 5 minutes, stretch them back 10 feet, 10 feet, 10 feet. And then get to the point where they're one hop, and then hold that for about 5 minutes, and then that's good. So not only do they learn the importance of accuracy and getting their feet involved and their body involved, but they're, over the course of 6-8 weeks, they're going to develop some arm strength too. But again, it's not your job necessarily to make these kids' arms stronger, but by implementing that type of stuff, it will happen. At this time, we're going to go on to a lot of other things. I don't want to keep you here all night, but again, going back to how I want this to be really informal, there is no stupid questions, and open it up to like anything at this point, considering we haven't talked about hitting yet or really fielding, but just overall approach to how you might want to tackle your team. Is anything up to this point where you might have a question that I've said?
I got a question for you, Cappy.
Yeah.
You talked about, you had the team meeting with the parents and stuff. Okay, so when I have my team meeting, I let them know that I'm going to try everybody out at different positions, and if I feel they can't work there, it's a safety issue. What do you do with the parents that come in the middle of the season and start saying, even though you've explained to them, how do you deal with the parents that are yelling at you saying, well, you know what, I don't understand why my kid's still not, after all these practices, he still can't play this position or bat this position or,
Yeah, okay, so once you state early on and make it clear what you're setting out to do, I'm going to rotate these kids, everybody's going to play every position. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it now, I don't want to hear it in 5 weeks. I don't want to hear it in 2 weeks. The bottom line is some of these people are unruly, they're inconsiderate, and that's their whole life. It's just not the few hours a week with you. I mean, these people have issues, right? So in this case, I'm direct. I'm just going to call them on the phone, or I'll offer to meet them out for lunch, because I'm really going to address it, me and them. I don't want to make it a big scene. This person's going to run their mouth during my game to all the other parents on the team. You nip it in the butt the best you can. Will you ever really win? Probably not. But, the more you can And I hate to say this, but you want to be able to throw it back in their face. That's how unruly people shut up, is you say, hey, remember, we documented this meeting and I addressed this. So in my case, I would already be thinking one step ahead. In my first meeting, I would say, I don't want to hear it in 2 weeks or in 2 months from now either. You know, so, you know, it's tough to be a coach because you're trying to basically foresee all these issues. And I think that's part of the point in what we've been talking about is trying to foresee some of these issues that are going to come up. And when you nip them in the bud, you just kind of sail right through them, you know. And when you don't, you know, that's why you address that, because now Johnny shortstop that never played another position, his parents are irate because he's playing outfield, you know. Yes.
So, as little league coaches, safety is a big, big issue. So with that kid that can't throw 30 feet, 40 feet, or can't catch a ball without a safety coming up.
Yeah.
Do we take him in right field and leave him in right field all day?
You know, I mean, it's how compassionate are you going to get about this? Like, I've learned that the best form of business in this, but again, it's my profession, is I've got to go to the parents, man. I've got to go to that parent and say, listen, you realize your son is going to get hurt with his level of skill, okay? And then from there, you kind of open the door to, well, Mike, what can I do to get him better? Well, listen, you know, I mean, you know, have you thought about getting a lesson or learning, or does he practice at home? Does he know what he could be doing at home? All stuff. That's kind of what we teach, you know. But so, I mean, when you turn the tables on that parent again and say, well, you understand he's a liability out there to get hurt. Forget about winning the game. He's going to get hurt. So, no, you can't put him at first base. You know, I mean, yeah, you're going to have that kid where you can't put anywhere. And you know what? He'll play left field all season long. You know? Or he'll DH or whatever you do, extra hit, but you can't put that kid, hey, I want to catch. I'm not going to explain to him that you're going to get hurt. I need to address it to the parents, because those will be the ones whispering, complaining to other parents, making you look like the bad guy. And some of these people try to form these group of venomous people that like to attack. And they do that sitting in the stands, because they're not good enough to volunteer their time. You're doing it. Remember, no one owes you anything but a thank you. So as long as you really, you know, focus on the parents, they control everything anyway. You know, I always make sure my relationships with the parents are great. So as long as because now Johnny's going to go home and get explained to that, hey, dude, you're going to get hurt. Maybe we should go get a lesson or something, right? So you don't have to have Johnny bugging you every practice. So when you address these things, always go to the top, right? Look at it like that. Go to the top. And I want to go to the parent. And then the parent will do my dirty work for me, if they're sensible. You know, because deep down they know. They might like to make a stink, but they know. They know the deal. So again, you know, some of these questions are awesome, but it's kind of like getting ahead of the curve. That's a great question, because do you want to be on the field when Johnny gets his face line drive? It'll happen. Listen, guys, unfortunately, some bad things are going to happen on Little League baseball fields starting this year, because it just, the math doesn't equal out. You got 8 to 10 kids that play baseball 8 to 10 months out of the year that are high-level club ball players going in with kids that can't catch a baseball.
Never played.
That never played. And Little League doesn't have anything set up or designed to say, wait a minute, you go stand in that line. You haven't played yet? Okay, we got an instructional league for you guys, right? And that's what it's going to lead to, but they're going to learn the hard way. And you know, some of the stuff too, we can rack our brains, but it's the system, the structure that's not in place. Anything else? Yes.
I see a lot of coaches, they do the one knee throw.
Yeah.
Is that a good drill? What does it do?
Yeah, okay, so thank you. And here's my take on it, and if RJ wants to chime in, feel free. But my take on the one knee drill is some of this stuff gets, I can't explain it. And I guess I'm pretty high up there when it comes to baseball instruction, and I don't see a ton of, in my opinion, people see it and go, well, it looks like we're doing something. Everybody drop to a knee, guys, and throw. And I think it has to do with bending and getting out front and releasing. There's always an ounce of truth in some of the stupidest drills, but you know, I would never recommend that. I don't think that's, you know, very beneficial. You know, because, you know, listen, go back to, none of you are ever going to feel the ground ball in the game and drop to a knee and throw. And you know, you're not, and I'm going to get to this in a minute. Because
I just wonder, does it help mechanics?
Does anybody want to chime in on what they think the one knee drill does? I mean, so if I'm here, you know, bending, reaching out in front, emphasizing and feeling the lower back, the bend, because bend is a big part of throwing, you know, and reaching out in front, it's kind of enticing a form of reach that you feel, you can feel it more because you're down on one knee.
I've never done it. I mean, does it keep a kid from like throwing sidearms?
No, because I could do this just as well. So, listen, great question. And great question because I can't even answer you. Maybe it's so great of a question, right? So, keep it to real life. You know, keep it to how the kids are going to throw in actuality. Can you?
So basically, what I would think the knee drill would possibly do is it's taking your feet out of the equation, really breaking down the arm motion. You're breaking. So you can be here, you are teaching breaking the arms, getting it up, making sure your partner sees the four-seam grip, and it's giving you something to focus on following through. Boom, over that front knee, really making sure they're following through. Again, with these kids, some of these kids that never played before, taking stuff little by little is probably very beneficial for them. Now they don't have to worry about their feet. Oh, how do my feet have to be when I'm, okay, shuffle, push. That's all great, but again, we're talking about all today, breaking stuff down. This takes feet out of it. Now they're focusing on one thing. Master that, boom, come up. Now we put it all together. Push, boom, go. So I think it's more of a breakdown type of thing, and also giving them the gauge to really what we need to follow through on. And it's perfect case, boom, follow over something. Damn, working on following through and stuff that we covered on a little bit. But.
So also, I like that point because you see a lot of kids, they'll sit there and they're ready to throw the ball and they're looking at their feet, like, am I stepping, am I throwing?
Right.
You know, so it's good.
So if you basically had nobody that played before, you can start with the knee,
Yeah, I mean,
and then work into the shuffle.
yeah, because the kids that are hot shots and think they're hot shots, they're going to get on a knee and start whipping the ball a million miles an hour, and that's something to be done in kind of close encounter. You know, I mean, yes, it's not a bad thing. I mean, I don't want to spend too much time doing it, but for your kids that are really struggling, you've got 4 kids that are like, whoa, whoa, whoa. You know, we're going to, like RJ said, we're going to go, all right, drop down to new. It's a feel thing. You know, baseball's a lot of feel. So in that sense, it's good. It's making you kind of feel the motion, taking your lower half out of it. And then, like RJ said, then get on your feet, shuffle, push. You know, the grip should be, in any time you have a baseball in your hand, that grip should be foreseen for these kids right now. Yeah, that's a good question. There's a lot, I mean, I see kids hitting on one knee. You know, they're down and taking swings like this, you know, doing, you know, so it's kind of a lot of different stuff like that, you know, is it terrible? No, but until someone can really say how great it is, I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, you know, okay, so going into getting a little too fancy or over-coaching practice, you know, I think I want my kids fielding a lot of ground balls. I want my kids fielding fly balls. Well, here's a real issue, guys. How many of you guys can grab a fungo bat and hit fly balls from 150 feet away without feeling kind of uncomfortable? Not many of you guys can do that. You guys don't do that for a living, right? It's hard to hit fungos, man. You know? To sit there with a bucket of balls and just hit fungos, fly balls to get your outfielders moving around. You can't do that. Right? I mean, that's hard to do. So, how many of you guys got pitching machines sitting in your garage that you can wheel out and plug in and shoot fly balls? No, not that either. And you're not expected to do any of those. But Do you guys see the tennis racket thing?
I got it.
Those are like 30, 40 bucks. Whoever invented that, I should have invented that. It's pretty cool. It's like this hard wire strung tennis racket thing. You get them at Dick's Sporting or something. And you know, you flip up a ball and whack it. And it'll go as far as you need for your kids. And you can sit up there and boom, you can do the catchers, boom. And then you can do the infielders, boom. It gives you a lot of forgiveness. You don't have to be super hand-eye coordination. You know, if you invest in something like that. Or just throwing fly balls, I guess. You know? But these kids have to, and that's what they're not getting enough of right now. Ground balls, fly balls. And then the next step is situational stuff. You know, a great practice is to put a tee at home plate, put your kids in their position, and rotate, and man on first, one out, boom. Hit it wherever you want. Hit it, you know, reasonably as hard as you want, or as soft as you want, or just tick it and make it a bunt. Like what? That is the best situational stuff. It's real life. It's what they're gonna feel when they're in a game. It's, oh yeah, we do this all the time. One out, all right, man on first and second, all right. My coach is always on me about where to go in this situation. Yet, I think it's a mistake sometimes to just go off into these, you know, stations and groups where we're doing, yes, these enhanced skill type things, but why not involve the situation? For a parent, right here, putting all my kids in position and just going, nobody out, boom. And then one out, you know, boom. You can get some base running involved too. You can bring outfielders in, they can be your base runners. And then you can flip-flop, you know. So I'm a stickler for, can it happen in real life? You know, going back to the one knee drill, you know, it's not applicable to anything in the game. Whereas when you start doing situational stuff, it's the best way to recreate. I tell the kids all the time that I work with, you know, baseball's unlike any other sport, you know. RJ and I played professional baseball. What happens when we're taking BP for the game? It's some fat old guy throwing BP. It's a bunch of professionals from 40 feet away, like this. Because they don't want to waste an arm, or they don't have enough people in the world that throw 95 miles an hour that'll throw simulated live batting practice from 60 feet 6 inches, which would be, in that case, the absolute best form of practice. Yet there's no situation I can get into in baseball that puts me in a game situation for a hitter, unless I'm facing a kid in my same class from the same distance of a pitcher's mound. Basketball, it's 10 feet in every gym, every game you play. You know, we can simulate in football, live scrimmages, full pads, everything. Unless we do that in baseball, you know, we don't get the full simulation. So that's what happens a lot of times. You guys, some of you guys might, your kids do lessons or stuff, and hey, he looks great in the cage. You don't look so good in the game, you know, because he's not tuned in yet to that live simulated practice. So whatever you want to call it, I call it live scrimmage. I think a great form of practice is, so we talked about on the defensive end of things, just go up there and make yourself the hitter, call out the situation. Man on first, man, you can't go wrong, just call out any situation. Bases loaded, no out, bases loaded, one out. Man on first and third, you know. And then when it comes time to break down and play a game, and your pitchers, it's the best way for them to practice too. I mean, you guys probably sit around and go, geez, what do I do with my pitchers today? You know, we can go down the bullpen and throw a side, or we can just implement them into practice today, and they're pitching to our hitters. Let's call it a scrimmage or whatever you're calling it. And it doesn't matter if you don't have enough kids to play the position. Play the infield, put a couple base runners, and have 2 hitters, and your pitchers rotate through the mound. You know, so now we're getting our pitchers the best practice that you can give them, because you're not there, remember, you're not there to make them better pitchers. You're there to introduce this form of live setting, simulated, this is what it's going to be like. You know, and then now your hitters are getting 5 at-bats. You know, some of you might go somewhere and bring your kids to go hit in batting cages and stuff, whatever. That's all extra cherry on top. You know, probably you're paying for it or whatever. Call RJ, come here, he'll work something out or whatever. You know, if you want a little more undivided attention, some instruction to go along with that BP or whatever, you know. So those forms of simulation, you know, live, this is what it's like, right? Because you get the picture up there too that, he freezes up when he's got to throw to a batter. Well, geez, he looked great in practice, throwing off flat ground, you know, with no hitter. But now he's on a mound and he's pumped up. So throw him out there in the game. Assuming you're on the field, you've got a mound to work with. So you've got to, let's just assume you're the only coach out there. I can't break into 4 stations. Who cares? We're playing a game. Something came up and it's ridiculous. I'm going to stop the game. And I'm going to explain to them, you know, what needs to be done. Johnny didn't know where to throw the ball when he got it. All right. It's a good lesson for not just Johnny, but everybody on the team. If you want it, now I'm getting to the borderline of what your guys' responsibility even is. Because you may not know where Johnny should have thrown the ball in that situation. So we don't want to coach him wrong either. But give him, you know, the best of what you've got. And if you don't know, email or text RJ around. Like when I say we're resources to the baseball community, that's what we do. When someone texts me, could you come out to one of my practices? Yes, it's going to be on my schedule, but yes, the answer is yes. It might not be for 2 weeks because I can't make it, but if you schedule it on this date, we'll be there. You know, that's just how we work. Because this is our jobs. This is, you know, just like you all, you know. You got to be good at your job. You got to put yourself out there. So, just kind of fast forward a little recap up until now. You know, playing catch as far as the technical on-field stuff, breaking down, you know, the grip, the shuffle push, the release point. Going into, I guess at this point we didn't talk about breaking down yet, aside from playing catch, but ground balls. You can certainly break that down, right? Especially if you have 2 coaches that can hit ground balls. You know, you can hit them from each side of the plate and put your infielders at second base and shortstop and have 2 little groups, throwing them back in, whatever. I think at this stage, assuming the Little League thing, all your kids need to take ground balls and all your kids need to take fly balls. So don't worry about, well, how am I going to get the outfielders and infielders work at the same time? Just do them all at once. I've been on fields before where the first thing, this would be kind of cool if you've got some, you know, some young kids or whatever, and it'd take about 45 minutes of your practice. You go to each position and talk about setting up and where to set up. You'd be surprised at how many kids do not know where to stand, right? So you'll go to first base and spend 5 minutes. You go to second, you go to shortstop, third, you know, left, right, center field. And you bring the whole crew with you, you know, with the understanding that, hey, listen, you're going to be playing short one day. I want you to know where to set up, right? So, you know, I have no problem with, you know, taking everybody. Come on, all you knuckleheads. None of you know this, so let's go. We're all going to learn it. And you know, you almost have to have that kind of attitude. Remember that these kids don't know how to play baseball yet. I didn't know how to play baseball when I was 18 and drafted by the Red Sox out of high school. I didn't know. I couldn't have talked to you. I can't shut up now. I couldn't talk to you for 1 minute if someone put me on the clock about any of this stuff. Right? So that's just life. People learn at different, you know, you just learn. These kids, even some of the best young kids I deal with, I joke with them all the time. I go, man, you're pretty good. You don't even know how to hit. You don't even know how this is going to work in 5, 10 years, right? Because it changes all the time. The speed of the game changes. Adjustments have to be made at all the time. So you should never feel like some kid might know baseball better than you know? And if you feel that way, fake it. They should respect you because you're their elder, I guess, right? And you can get by on them, I'm sure. Because when you start doing that, you start giving in, and you know how that is when the inmates run the asylum, whatever they say, right? So you want to be firm on that. Stick to your plan. This is what we're doing today. You don't like it, call mom right now. She can pick you up in 10 minutes. What's wrong with that? Now if they're bored in a half hour, you told them. You know, it's important stuff. So, speaking of, obviously perfect cases, you got 3 or 4 volunteer coaches out there, and you can break down and probably get more done. You can have a station where they're kicking off a tee into a net, and that's great, But if you don't and you're on your own, it's a group thing. We're in this thing together. Let's go. We're gonna do ground balls together. We're gonna do fly balls together. We can do base running from each base and go around as a group. We can play simulated games. Our pitchers will get work. Our hitters will get work. We'll get at bats, and then I'll have the luxury of. You'd be surprised if you go, geez, how am I going to fill this practice 2 hours? Well, they're going to warm up and play catch for 20 minutes, and then I'm going to do an interfly game for an hour 40. But after every transaction or play, I will stop and address that play. And you should have been backing up, right? Johnny right fielder, you need to be backing up first base, right? And what are you doing over here? You'd be surprised. Baseball is actually, there's a lot more X's and O's than you think. As far as that chessboard of positioning and where people should be. I mean, really everybody's got a job. And you put runners on base, lots going on now. And I wish I had a field because it really could go over that stuff. Cutoffs, relays, yes, important. I joke about, pickoffs and rundowns, and I think that's overcoached and people spend time on that to pass time. But positioning for cutoffs and relays is very important for your middle infielders and your outfielders. Be happy to help you guys out with that if we ever, if and when we get on the field ever together. Anything else? Anything else? Yeah, I really want.
You shut off.
That's fine.
Just.
Yes.
I got a question. Back to the forcing and the push up and all.
Yeah.
What about doing just warming up and separating?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what's more.
Yeah.
Some kids are over here at the bottom of their knees, up here and bottom.
Yeah. Okay. Great point, right? And I guess I kind of just really categorize into the very simple parts. But yeah, getting a little more detailed, the breaking of our hands, right? And my issue has always been with young kids is you tell them to do something, they do it. And unfortunately, they kind of do it like to the T, right? So what happens is these kids sometimes get into, people tell them to get here, or they get into these things. And I've never put myself in all that to even be able to really explain it, other than what I'll explain to you, is that when you break here, it's as if there's a little X. I put X's on kids' hands, the back of their hands before, and I'll talk to them about that X should always be pointed upwards. So it's here. We get in trouble as soon as we're here. We're not launching a grenade, right? We're not pushing something. We're here. So that would be something to, when you break your hands, make sure the palm of your throwing hand is facing up towards the sky. Now the glove hand should be towards the target. So listen, it's here nor there if we're trying to get these kids in a perfect, if we're worried about pain, you look like some crow or something. Now you're overcoaching it, right? So, but what you'll see a lot of times is, kids will, catch a ball and then they'll go this way. There's a problem, right? They'll go like this or like this, or they won't do anything with it. They'll just go like this. So, in those cases, you want to explain to them that there is the breakage that's here. And if I were to do a drill or cut into, all right, kids have been playing catch for 10 minutes. I don't like what I see. All right, guys, come on, I'm not seeing this. Glove to your target and that X to the sky. Back of the hand to the sky, glove to the target. And then, not to get too technical, but why that is because you're creating torque as you pull in now with that glove. It essentially slingshots your arm forward. And then you kind of become like those ice skaters that when they get tight, they start spinning fast. Well, we're creating that, right? So the point of that separation is to eventually bring it all in. And it creates that, that torque or explosion or whatever. So to address that point, I would say back of the throwing hand to the sky, it doesn't turn over, until you get in here, and then glove hand to the target. So if that's what that would be what I just said. So if I instructed a kid to do that, they would look like that. Like that.
Thank you.
Yep. Yep.
So when you got them, the shuffle, push and throw, that's on the warm up, right?
Yeah.
When they take infield, you don't want them doing that.
Yeah, well, okay, good question. Yes, you want them to implement, right? Look at it this way. And that's why I'm not a huge fan of the drop down on the knee and throw, because we're not gonna throw like that in games. So, yes, if I was fielding the ground ball, I'm here, and look what I've done. Boom. The same thing. So I'm getting my feet set. So yeah, great question. Yes, apply it to your infield work, right? Or if I'm an outfielder, pitch my ball, I gotta get momentum going, boom. So that shuffle push, you should see that in all activity throwing on the field. Okay? I mean, it's like, well, that's where, it doesn't look great at young ages. You'll see the kid do this. Yeah. That's fine. That's fine. He's got it. Hey, dude, let's cut down to 2 steps now, and then 1. Right? So,
Because I teach them one, but
that's fine. That's what they're going to do. Or they're going to go. Right? And you teach. Hey, that's why we shuffle push. That's why we don't cross our feet when we play catch. Great question. But yes, you want to implement that when they start taking ground balls. You don't want kids to be taking ground balls, like this, and then, you want that fluidity or that footwork of here. You could do drills like, I've had kids in the past where they're just here. You just call out a base. So you could put them, I guess you could put them at home plate. And you could say, third base, and they're here. You could say first base, and then here. You could say second base, and they're here, right? So, and you could apply that. I just made that up. I've never done that, but you could put them in some kind of close encounter where they have to, or just put kids in the middle and then spread them around, and throw here, throw Johnny, throw Mike, throw Mark, throw Jim. And then you want it all to look like this. Boom. They can take that step. Boom. They can take that step. So it's very important. It's how below average arms become average in the major leagues. It's how average arms become above average. And the guy with the rocket, he can throw however he wants. but that's life, right? So, yeah, that's a good question. Hitting. Tees are great. You guys aren't expected, but I get, at least they could supply. It might be a tee and, find a net or something. I don't know if these are something that you have to make your own investments with or whatever. But for $50, it's well worth it to get a rundown tee and a net, pop-up net or something. Because that is a brilliant station. I know you can't hit into the chain link fences, or you shouldn't, but to have that net and tee work. Now, very simple, because I could go on and on tee work, but again, you're not there to make them Bryce Harper, right? And they won't become. You're not a hitting guru, and that's okay. So refrain from acting like it. Now, there is stuff that everybody should be able to recognize. For example, your average right-hand hitter. Here's Johnny. You told him to hit off the tee. He's like this, right? What's wrong with the feet? A lot. So he's blocked off with the hips. His head's not even looking at the pitcher. So simple thing would be line up your toes, Johnny. Just line up your toes. Can it be done other ways? Of course, but you're not on TV yet. So let's just stick with line up your toes and snap to the pitcher. You'd be amazed at the difference. I do it all the time when I get a new kid and he's all over the place. You just straighten them out. You align them a little bit. You don't have to be an expert. It's common sense coaching. Footwork is always the bad thing when they're really young. Their feet are a mess. They don't have balance. So just line up your toes and stride straight ahead. one thing they'll have is they'll have that natural hand-eye coordination. Even your worst players should be able to swing a bat and hit a ball on a tee relatively consistently if you gave them 10 tries. If they can't, their feet are jacked up or they're not looking at the ball when they're trying to hit. You know? Your hot shots, don't let them run over you. That's boring to them hitting off the tee. Remember, they'll be at club ball practice in 2 hours later that night. Don't deal with it. Don't deal with it. So the teamwork's good. Teamwork for me is barrel control. So it's building the muscle memory of taking that barrel, which is the prized possession of them, and putting it on the ball and hitting through it. So whether it's your own kids or the kids you're coaching this year, remember, if someone's working on the tee, their main priority should be taking the barrel to the ball, barrel control. So it's a lot of repetition, muscle memory, and if anything else, you can tell a kid, hey, if you want to get better in your own time, get the tee in the net, work at the house. I guess if you really want to at the younger ages, forget about you hitting in the simulated game, set up the tee and let them rotate through it. And then they can take swings too. And they can run, and you can have your infielders set up. I'm going to talk about this now. Just hit me, the importance of setting up on defense. It will eliminate some injuries from some kid that's not ready, okay? My belief is you have to be extremely ready when that pitch is being delivered by your team. The way I look at it is like, there has to, in the infield, you should have this natural, and there is no, you gotta do it like this, but do it, right? I always had a 1-2, and then as that ball was crossing home plate is when you saw me do that little hop right now, was when the ball's crossing home plate. So if I'm at short, third, second, or first, I'm here, 1-2, and then when I do that, that's when the ball was crossing home plate. Now it takes a long time to practice that. Here's the way I look at it. My pitcher has 100 pitches this game, and I'm playing short. I have 100 chances to work on that throughout my game. Period. It's the simplest way to look at it. Now you tell a kid to practice something 100 times, as simple as that, he'll nail it, right? So that's where you got to be a little observant. There'll be many times if I was in the dugout watching a game, I'm not watching the action at the plate. Just glance out. Watch everybody setting up. It'll tell you all you need to know. And if they're interested, want to be there, want to learn, whatever. So call that whatever you want. If you're taking notes, 1-2, 1-2, whatever. I don't even know. It's hard to explain, right? But I think you guys all get it. And it won't look as fluid and natural with everybody, and you don't want 1, 2, and then you don't want kids gaining 10 feet of ground. It's almost done in place, here, and then at that point. A common thing I see from a lot of volunteer coaches, going back to overcoaching, the old, hey, stay down on the ball. I see kids, I can't even do it, I'll split my pants. They're so far down, And, some people are out there, telling these kids, get down lower, you gotta beat down. And then these kids, now you can't move to set up your feet to make that throw. So, 1-2, I'm right here. I don't need to be any more than that. The ball's not hit yet. The theory is you can move quicker from this position than you can from taking a crap position, sitting on the toilet, right? Yeah, some people are coaching that. Hey, get down like you're on the toilet,
He said that's for infielders. How about outfielders?
Yeah, outfielders you can almost, cut it in half. You don't need the 1-2 hop, but I want to see that. I want to see 1-2. And then they'll put their personal touch on it. You'd be surprised what good baseball players do. And I love it. Make it their own. One day you'll see your best player, he'll be cockeyed like this or something. And he's already got something figured out that works for him. He gets a bad beat on this gap, so he likes to turn himself, or just whatever. That's just beautiful. That's the art of the game. That's why every batting stance looks different. Who are we to teach a kid how to stand, assuming he knows how to play the game? He's a couple of years in his baseball career. Who are we to tell him how to stand? Unless it's something off the wall like I just showed you. Keep it simple, right? Don't try to find something that you see on TV or with some superstar baseball player. It won't work with your 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old. It won't work. It doesn't work. It doesn't work with professional young men. Anything else? RJ? Sorry, I talked a lot. Yeah, coaches' batting practice is one thing. The reality is, not knocking you guys down, you're not supposed to. Not a lot of you probably can throw good batting practice unless you have a lot of work ethic. I know firsthand, it's not easy to throw batting practice. And I do it every day, 6 days a week. It's not easy to throw batting practice. So I'm pretty confident you guys will probably suck at throwing batting practice, but it's all right. Right? I suck at doing what you guys do for a living. So that's a big obstacle. Here's what happens when that happens. You start yelling at the kids for taking pitches that they should be taking. Right? And don't get me started on pitch selection, which is that's the separator of a good hitter as they get older, is their ability to swing at strikes and take balls. So unfortunately, a lot of these kids are put in situations, please don't put them in them, where you have a coach that's unsure about himself throwing BP, and it's a mess. And he gets frustrated, so he just says, hey, just swing no matter what, the next 3, let's go. 10 swings and out, let's go. How are you going to swing? These kids are getting these mixed emotions. And you're the same person that when it's bases loaded last inning, he swings at a pitch over his head and you're pissed. Don't do it. So if anything, practice taking pitches. Compliment them for laying off that garbage that you might be throwing out there. And when all else fails, you can pull up the screen and flip them soft toss from 10 feet away, and that should be doable. But put the moment on your kid. Hey, who are my pitchers? Who? Get on the mound, let's go. Timmy, put a helmet on. Johnny, you're on deck. You go to short, second, let's go. Let's play a game. So that whole Sandlot effect is a beautiful thing. We know what Sandlot is. Sandlot is, remember you used to get your friends, go play baseball? Well, that's how kids got good 30, 40, 50 years ago. By playing Sandlot. That type of practice is invaluable. Kids don't do it anymore. So there's an effect on how these kids are developing. So you can never go wrong by just simulating real life situations, and hopefully you can implement yourself into that as a coach. I hope a lot of you guys weren't coming here just, me telling you 100 drills. You can go buy a stupid book at Barnes & Noble, 100 stupid drills you can do with your team. I don't coach like that. I don't operate like that. Because 98 of those drills look stupid, and I can't explain them. But what you can explain is real life, simulated reenactments, putting these kids in situations. And that's what hitting somebody ground balls are, hitting them fly balls, having them react to stuff in simulated games. Yes, there's ways to enhance your throwing speed. There's ways to enhance your batting average in power and bat speed. There's ways to enhance your running speed. And those are called professional hitting instructors, athletic trainers, and pitching instructors. So don't try to chew off everything, because you go crazy. It wouldn't be worth your time. So have some fun with it. You'll always be able to teach the kids good lessons, something that's valuable to them they'll take with them. And they'll look up to you, man. The best coaches, sometimes when these kids get older, are the one, he was a cool dude, man, he taught us a good lesson, we had fun. That's kind of an overused term a little bit that no one actually lives by. Have fun, relax, enjoy the game. And I think that's probably the hardest part of coaching, is the guy that can be pissed off 1 minute and then be cracking the joke the next. And that's kind of where I fall into. Make your points to these kids. They know when they screwed up, and they don't want to do it again. What they don't know is they're going to do it 1,000 more times in the next 5 years. So might as well be the guy that brings in the good news that it's all right, everybody goes through this. There's a stat that I like because I was a shortstop. It put me at ease. When my first year, I think I made 20 errors at shortstop in professional baseball. and I won the best defensive award in the league. And someone goes, dude, you did great. And I was like, no way, man, I didn't make 20 errors my whole life up until now. And they go, well, Derek Jeter holds the record in this league for 69 errors. So that was pretty cool. You could look it up too, it's a stat. Derek Jeter made 69 errors his first year in rookie ball. So, you know, it's only, Jeter becomes Jeter because he gets it. Whereas, you know, some people, including me, I was ready to quit or feel like I was a failure or something, right? So that's a big thing emotionally too for these kids. And yeah, it's not fun to say, it's all right, you know, the old pat on the back, you know, but everything swung in these last 10 years so far garbage to this whole win or you're off the team, you're cut. It's garbage, it's garbage. Who do these people think they are? There should be baseball coaches, police, arresting people, finding them. I always thought you should be accredited. I had an idea to accredit these coaches that were Little League coaches. You had to actually know something, you know. Don't be the guy that bunts your 9-hitter because he sucks. Wouldn't you be the better man if you taught him a lesson and let him swing away? And he had some real at-bats? Do you think the 7, 8, 9 hitters like knowing that they bunted 3 times every game because you knew that's the only way they could get on base? Think about that. You're just ripping them to shreds. You're telling them they suck. You're telling them they have no future in the game. Do you think you should be giving them the take sign because you know this kid can't hit and his only chance is to walk on 4 balls? Do you think it's right to give this guy, hey, take? That's when you have to look in the mirror and go, what am I doing? You know? But it's done on 75% of the teams at young Little League ages, and it is just awful. Some of the things coaches try to do to manipulate trying to win a game. And it's shameful, and I understand some people do it out of naiveness. They don't really understand the side effects, but I'll be the first one to say it's garbage. So, that's not real baseball, and I always go back to teach real baseball. I know it's fun to steal every base and take advantage of the other team's inefficiencies, but your catcher can't throw anybody out either. So let's just all agree to play baseball. You know, because no one gets in high school and they steal every pitch. You know, people don't bunt unless they have to at the higher level. They don't bunt because they're not good hitters. You know, so if you could always kind of flash back to the old do the right thing, I think that pays dividends in your coaching. You know, make fun of me all you want that I got beat 32-2. If my kids played the game the way I expected it to, they'll get better and learn the right way. You know,
Should we teach bunting?
I think you should teach bunting, but don't over-teach it. You know, the problem is are you really going to play an 8-year-old, 9-year-old, 10-year-old Little League game and be so involved that you're sacrificing, you're moving runners over to strategize your game to win? You know, so to bunt for a sacrifice purpose, yes, you should teach that. But what happens is you're 15 years old and you can run really fast. And someone like me pulls you aside and goes, in the next 5 minutes, I'm going to teach you how to bunt for a hit. That's how easy it is. I don't need to teach 8, 9, 10, 11-year-old to bunt for a base hit. That's an easy thing to get when you're deep, a fast runner as you get older, right? So I would not teach someone how to bunt for a hit in Little League. I would teach them, and you could look at it this way: spend the last 5 minutes of your practices talking about sacrifice bunts and moving the runners over. And this is why we do it, guys, because we want to get that runner from first to second or second to third. You have to sacrifice. Why we call it a sacrifice bunt is because you're sacrificing the out. We're going to give them an out in order to move that runner over. So you guys all know what a sacrifice bunt is, and they go, yeah. You just taught them a very valuable part of the game of baseball. But if you want to implement that into your games, and it's a tie game, you have nobody out, man on second base, go ahead and bunt it. That's not overcoaching. That's actually that's a pretty strong move. You just bunted him out to advance the runner to third, and now you have a runner on third with less than 2 outs, and that's a good situation to be in. Easy RBI, as we know, right? So, you know, once you teach sacrifice bunting, it's another 45 seconds to teach bunting for a hit. So don't overcoach it. But the art of bunting, yeah, is important. I just don't like when coaches tell the worst kid on the team to bunt every at bat, because it's just not fair. You know.
What's the worst thing you think there is in Little League?
The worst thing I think there is in Little League, well, one of them is bunting. You know, listen, I've seen coaches bunt 1 through 9 because big old boy at third base can't walk and chew gum at the same time. You want to make this guy cry? I mean, I'd stop the game right now and call the guy out. That's garbage. But, you know, I think there's a lot of Little League has their work cut out. You know, we all know like everybody's bigger, faster, stronger. You know, so whether it was the NFL 30 years ago or Little League baseball 30 years ago, you know, the bases are too small. I think Majors division should be leading off for sure, 100%. But the bases are too small, so they lead off. They're already halfway to the base.
Well, club ball has gone over the lines right now. I mean, they're accepting 6-year-old kids now with club ball. I mean, do you recommend Little League?
Here's what me and RJ do. The best thing we can do, and if I could do this every week, I would, is educate the community. Because Mike just mentioned, there's 6U tryouts for club baseball. I had an 8-year-old club ball kid in here today. And I made fun in front of his parents that he was playing 8U club ball. Because I don't care. Because I think it's silly. He doesn't know how to do anything on the diamond yet, and he's playing competitive trophy chase baseball with a coach that is either trying to make money without offering a professional service. Remember, RJ and I can make money because we offer professional service. And our diplomas are on the wall up there in the front room. Okay, we've studied this, we've trained, and we're accredited. And so someone's either trying to supplement their income as to their job, or they're trying to manipulate their own kids' playing careers a lot of times by stepping into that role. And that's the biggest problem right now with the club baseball scene, is you have, we all heard the term daddy ball. My dad was my coach my whole life. He was great. Every kid I grew up with says, your dad was the best coach I ever had. It worked out good. My dad never had to work. I was the best kid on every team I played on. I made his life easy. But that's not the everyday thing, you know. Usually it's daddy ball. We hear daddy ball. We hear it because, you know, the dad's trying to manipulate the kid's career. Here's my advice. That ain't going to change. But how you perceive it is what's going to make the difference. So if your son is playing on that team, can he control his 3 or 4 at-bats that game? Yes. Can he control when the ball's hitting him in the field? Yes. Does daddy have anything to do with those 2 things? Nope. Baseball is an individual sport. That's one of the things people always go, you're crazy. Oh, we've got to work as a team, guys. Nope. When the Red Sox drafted me, they didn't do background checks on my 10U baseball team. They didn't refer to how many trophies I won when I was 12, 13, and 14. I had to run a 60-yard dash. I had to show arm strength, batting ability. That's it. It's an individual game. Now that's hard for some people to swallow. So I'll give you this. And RJ played college ball, I didn't. College, they like to win and cheer and rah-rah. But RJ knows when he went professional, what happened? No one was standing on the front step with their rally hat on no more. Because this is individual now. We're fighting to go make a big paycheck. And really, I'll take it even to Little League. Yes, you're showing the kids good things. And I'm not saying, listen, be a cocky, arrogant, individual jerk when you're a player or coach that. But what I'm saying is, when the kid comes in every year and starts crying because he's better than all the kids that made the 12U All-Star team, because his parents didn't associate with anybody that selected the team, every year a kid walks through there, he's better than them all. And he cries and he goes, Cappy, man, what's up? I didn't make All-Stars. And I look away, I smile a little bit, I call him and his parents in the front room, and he gets a lesson that they won't get until their careers end, when they're told in high school, you didn't make the team. What? Where do I play this year? Nowhere. Because there is no league for kids that got cut from high school. So you have to treat it like that. Keep proving yourself on an individual basis. And I know that's not why we're here, but if I was in a room full of players as well, prospects, young kids, keep your eye on your skill level. I always say, the kids come in, how'd you do in the tournament? And they go, well, we won 3 and lost 2. I go, I don't care about that. How did you do? That's what matters to me. You guys are in a little different boat because you got to manage. My job's easy. I got to manage one kid and his skill set. Your job gets a little more difficult. So it's not like I want you spewing that to your kids necessarily, but on a one-on-one conversation, that's a good little piece. Hey man, don't worry about these kids. Or if I got my 5 club superstars, I pull them aside, talk about nip it in the butt early. Hey guys, I know you guys are hot shots, blah, 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 Puma's cool, whatever. See those kids? They can't catch yet. So I don't want to see you guys jacking around, laughing at them, cutting into them. In any way, you will be sent home, and I'm going to call your parents right on the spot. So you probably solve that issue right then. Because they will, how kids are. That's unfair. So, yeah, there's a lot of what's wrong, really, with the whole culture. Who knows what started, Well, make a long story short, you bring your kid to a club ball tryout 5 years ago. He's told he doesn't make it, and you go and start your own team. You hold the tryout next month. 30 kids come, you keep 12, 18 kids get told, the kid's not good enough. 3 of those coaches on the way to the parking lot say, hey, let's screw it, let's start our own team. No. You see how that can exponentially grow. What you're left with is, club ball is not club ball, it's not select, it's not travel ball, it's not what? It's not it anymore. So who cares really? I mean, listen, there is a point for club ball. Mike's doing it the right way. A lot of guys in town are doing it the right way. Most of them are. And they probably never will. And you know what? Why there's not 100 people in here is because people have big egos. And they think they know it all. And they would never bring a notebook and take notes to listen to somebody talk about coaching or baseball in general. So that's why. I could offer free stuff every week. People don't show up. Because they know it all, And I don't know, but I can tell you a lot when it comes to this. So that's just how people are. Everybody thinks they can do it better, so they'll start their own team. And then what RJ and I get is a lot of feedback that we're actually refreshing. Because we didn't come up here and throw you all this garbage to make you look cool at your practices or something. We basically said the opposite, that hey, the World Series at the highest level of baseball is won and lost by the team that doesn't throw it over the other guy's head when there's people running on base. We saw it, dude. If you don't believe me, just go back in the history of the World Series. And we all look at each other on the couch like, that dude's making $15 million a year. Me and Brian text each other all the time about overpaid people. Hey, basics, fundamentals. In spring training right now is a bunch of, there's $300 million between the chalk lines, and they're working on what we just said. So who are we to coach 8-year-olds and do all this ridiculousness when you got $300 million at Dodgers spring training right now, taking ground balls, throwing the bases, setting their feet?
So what do you do when you've got a parent who can't afford a pitching coach or throwing coach or Are there some resources you can
Okay.
recommend just for,
Great.
so they can portray it?
Great question. Awesome question, and it's right up our alley, because that's what we do. Now, I would say, I've never had anybody call me. I work stuff out, that's it. So I would say, why don't you call RJ down at Cappy's Cage? He'll work something out with you. Now, that's up to RJ, that's up to me, and that's up to that person, and you'll never know.
Right.
I might give them free lessons for a year. I might charge them, put them on a payment plan. They can bring me cookies, or maybe they do something with their jobs that helps me. So that's how I would address it, would be exactly, hey, I don't know, but all I'll say is they'll work something out with you. And then we'll live with the results. But that's the reality. Listen, I charge $70 an hour, $35 for a 30-minute individual lesson, you know? And I believe it's worth that and more. And the results are gonna happen. It's a process of development plan. I teach, they learn. We teach, they learn. They apply. We follow up with it. Things are going bad. Well, you ain't leaving here until we fix it, or know how to fix it. How you execute is up to you. You know, Mike's brought his kids in here for a couple of years. Mike's a great example because he could easily say, you know, I'm a superstar volunteer coach, and he is. He's got his kids here twice a week. I'm not saying everybody's got to do that. Twice a week for the last year and a half. Brings them down here, learns himself. I learn from them. I know the kids inside and out. You know, so I mean, there's something to that. You know, I don't know why, but everybody thinks they know baseball. You know, if I had to go teach, I've used this with RJ example. Can you imagine if someone called me up and go, hey, can you volunteer coach? You're the only option. My daughter's 12-year-old volleyball team. I'd crap my pants. I wouldn't know what to do. Yeah, but apparently it's okay to volunteer coach 12-year-old baseball. You know, but because it's baseball, everybody thinks they know it, it's easy, it's simple. But, you know, I thought that was kind of funny. I thought about it like that. Because whether it's me getting my kid a piano lesson or whatever, it's a skill set. You know, you're driving around in circles if you're not learning from experts or masters, you know. You're driving around in circles. You have to learn. There has to be someone to teach you. You know, as a parent, you can do that in many things. Sometimes you can't do that in specific sports stuff. You know, so it's reality. And I always say, if it's not me, go find someone else that you love or your kid loves. They'll love it here. This is the perfect place. And that's one of the reasons we hold stuff like this too, is to introduce ourselves to you guys. And not to be a bummer, but I'm actually moving because my wife got transferred with her job. And some of you guys don't know that. But I opened this place 6 years ago. And I've had the opportunity to work with RJ through his playing career at Kansas State University, and then parts of the last 2 years with the Anaheim LA Angels organization. So it was a perfect fit when, about a month ago, I realized I had to move, that RJ take over. He's been giving lessons here for the last year anyways, on my days off. And he'll carry on everything, and he knows me better than anybody when it comes to some of the stuff we talk about, his approach and all that stuff. But I will be here, hopefully throughout the summer, for sure the next 3 solid months through May, I'll be here. And hopefully longer, because we're going to do some camps, and I'm going to encourage us to both go out and come to some of your guys' practices and stuff, and stuff like that. But you got to communicate, because it never hurts to ask, right? And when you ask, good things can happen, right? So yeah, that's kind of my background. I'll always kind of have ties here and stuff, and I look forward to continuing on what I do, and that's be a resource to people for baseball players, coaches, parents, in whatever capacity. So I'm always available, have my number and stuff, and I'll be here the rest of the month. March 1st, RJ's going to take over, but I'll be around and I'll be popping in and helping him with the transition, although he knows what he's doing for sure. next, so be in touch. Any other questions about anything while you're here? I appreciate it. It tells a lot about people when they come to stuff like this. Big time. Big time. So thank you very much. I respect all you very, very, very highly, you know, to be here. Because it's basically someone going, I gotta sign this job, I need some help. And this dude's gonna do it for free. I'll try to ask some questions. That's smart of you, and you know, says a lot about you as a person too, willing to learn. You know. So
Appreciate it. Thank you both.
yeah, definitely. If you wanna talk to any of us the next half hour or so, we'll be hanging around closing up and stuff. Take cards, business cards are out front on that front table if you wanna look around. See some washed up baseball players memorabilia in the front row. You can. RJ's still wet. He's so newly washed up.
Hey, but he's not. Hey, when he takes over though, he's leaving all the Chicago stuff up, right? He's
I told him. I said if I can get my Chicago flag down, I'll take it. But I don't know how I'm gonna get up there. I paid someone $20 to put it up there.
I could have Billy take it down for you. It stays. Yeah, it's got to stay.
I got about 50 minutes in and then it shut off.
Cool. Appreciate it, man. And then that's what the Chicago Cubs raise, Brian.
What's that
Every
mean?
time we win, so the people in the neighborhood know that we won that day.
That means lost. We lost again.
What was your band? Huh? What's your team?